Full spoilers for Risk of Rain 2. There's a funny moment at the end of Risk of Rain 2. After 30 to 40 minutes of non-stop slaughter, fighting against the clock in a desperate struggle for survival, you activate the primal teleporter, which takes you to the moon of Petrichor 5. And instead of being dropped in the middle of a playground of mundane objects turned instruments of war, you teleport to a grand hallway, designed with lofty ambitions and no regard for how it would be used. After all, this hallway was never meant to be traversed, being the entryway to not a city, garden, or other populated area, but a tomb. An eternal prison for the demigod alien king of nothing, Mythrix. His legions of lunar chimera attack you, not unlike the denizens of the planet you just escaped, but those earlier encounters pale in comparison. These chimera are not a cultured people defending their works from the omnicidal warmonger that fell from the sky, but beings built to kill and nothing more. As it is with most things, the design echoes the designer. Mythrix is the first creature you've encountered capable of communicating with you, yet he has nothing to offer but complete and utter contempt. It's clear he does not know anything about you nor how you came before him, only that your pathetic existence as a being of soul is a flaw that he must correct. He may kill you a few times, but the player character isn't referred to as survivor for nothing. The king of nothing is slain as his meager kingdom crumbles in on itself. And, as is fitting, only at the end does Risk of Rain 2 show you the beginning. After all, don't all great tragedies begin with knowledge of how it will end?
They knew to stay away from the wells. They were just kids. They wanted to know. They threw in dirt and stone and Kiefered and Starcy, watching as they collapsed. Or the gravity wells would swallow up anything. Glass and mud and silver, wind, heat, pulsar radiation. And when his brother wasn't watching, Mythrix would throw in worms. Or, but only when he wasn't watching. You see, his brother loved worms. It would make him sad. But Mythrix didn't care much about worms. He was just curious. But one time, his brother was watching. And his brother loved worms.
The best part of tragedies, for me at least, is the drama that arises from characters that could so easily secure a happy ending if they just conceded even slightly, but refuse to let go of their beliefs and prejudices and end up carrying them to their grave or the grave of those they love. We can see this painfully clearly from the logbook, as some of the entries are written by Mythrix. His speaking style is unique, not filled with malice or bloodlust, but a yearning curiosity for the universe he found himself in. That and a grand vision for what the universe should look like. He is, figuratively or literally, composed of ambition, a stark contrast to his brother, Providence, one composed of compassion. His vision of the universe is fundamentally incompatible with that of his brother's. No matter how much Providence loved his brother, that didn't blind him from Mythrix's true ambitions. Mythrix didn't hate Soul, he simply didn't care for it. Soul made his creations unpredictable and frail, a far cry from the guardians he envisioned. He deemed it unnecessary, oblivious to his brother's love of Soul, or perhaps willfully ignorant. Whatever the case, Providence was forced to choose between his garden of Soul and his brother. He chose Soul. Whether planned or through happenstance, Providence destroyed the gateway between Petrichor 5 and its moon after Mythrix traversed it. The two brothers never saw each other ever again. Providence would create his Garden of Soul, turning Petrichor 5 into a diverse paradise brimming with life from across the stars. He never lost hope that Mythrix would change his ways one day, perhaps after seeing how beautiful his Garden of Soul could be, but he never did, perhaps never could. Mythrix looked down on what his brother had built with disgust and rage.
I know you can hear me. I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt at first. Perhaps there was a flaw in my design. Perhaps it was one of your games. I was even willing to forgive you. But no, I see the truth now. You trapped me on this forsaken rock. And for what? Is this all for your little pets? The creatures you love so much? Or can I even call it love when you would stab your only brother in the back? How could you do this to me? I, the only one who looked out for you after her death. I, the one who showed you how to create. I, who helped to create the very power you use to invite vermin and pests into our home. I, your only brother. How could you love those imperfect, flawed vermin but not me? After all I've done for you, how could you do this to me? Say something. Say something.
It's possible Mythrix could have changed eventually. Immortality trapped on a barren rock tends to give one quite a bit of time for introspection. But even if ambition personified could be made to give up his visions, that day will never come. The UES contact light was struck down by Providence, fearful of his garden being exposed to hostile forces, and the ship's survivors do what their namesake suggests, killing Providence in the process. And when the time finally comes to face Mythrix, potentially as his brother's killer, he doesn't know. One small tweak in this battle could have been motivated by something more than a designer's distaste for soul. But this is a tragedy, so Mythrix dies alone, ignorant that his brother could not possibly help him, no matter how hard he screams.